98,000 bells for a bridge, another 98,000 bells just for a simple incline, and now you want how much for me to expand my home? Are you kidding me? 348,000 bells! These prices just keep going up. And I've been hearing the same about cruises.
He's a TA and he's gonna talk. Let's join Matt for today's TA Talk.
Hello friends and welcome back to the home office for another installment of the TA Talk. It has been quite some time since we have done one of these, but we are back and ready to jump back into it, talking about hot topics, talking about things that I think I can help inform you from my perspective as day-to-day work as a travel agent, answering your questions, addressing your concerns, all of those different things. And as I mentioned in the opener, the latest one that I've been hearing probably more than anything else is that these cruise prices are getting out of hand. But the bells are too. Tom Nook needs to get it together. Now, my main purpose for today's TA Talk is to help kind of guide you into maybe being able to save some shekels on those cruise prices that you're seeing rise and rise and rise. Some ideas, some thoughts that you can maybe take into consideration to help. Now, a couple of things to start before we get into that. Number one, there is not going to be some magical cure-all fix to cruise prices or prices for anything, really. You can't just snap your fingers and get an amazing deal. That's not really how it works. We have to be realistic. So with that in mind, I will be giving some thoughts and some opinions and some tips, but it's not going to be anything that is just a magical fairy wand that makes everything better. So just keep that in mind. And also, before I gave those tips, I also want to just kind of talk about cruise prices in general and my thoughts on them. Now, I went into detail on this during the last TA Talk number 12. So if you happen to miss that, go back and check it out because I went into detail with everything, kind of gave a lot more thought and expounded on it more than I will here. But just to briefly kind of recover it, cruises were shut down for 16 months or so there, and they were not generating any money. They were losing millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they have to make all of that up and then some. And they're, have brand new horizons on their mind that they would like to expand to as well. New cruise ships, new destinations, new private islands, all those sorts of things. So just keep that in mind when you're getting irritated. I know we all want to pay less. I know we want the best deal that we can get. But there's a reason that these prices have gone up, and in my opinion, it's a pretty substantial one. One other thought along those lines is people always ask, when are the cruise prices going to come down? And when I used to work at Walt Disney World as a cast member, I got the same question. When is Disney going to stop charging so much? And my answer then is the same as it is now, which is when people stop paying it. And guess what? People never stop paying those prices for Disney. They've gone up and up and up, and they have high, staggering, record-setting numbers to this day. Well, that's what's happening with cruising too. Cruising boomed after the pandemic, and it continues to do so, which is great news. We want that. We want people cruising. We want people having a good time, going out and enjoying themselves and exploring the world. But as long as that continues to happen, the prices are not going to go down. One final thought before we get into the tips to try to save some money here is that I want to reiterate the phrase, you get what you pay for. I've seen a lot of people, specifically with Royal Caribbean, you guys know that's who we sell the most of and sail the most on, and so I usually kind of slant things towards discussing them, and we've seen that a lot. Royal Caribbean, these prices are going up. I might switch to another cruise line, and I would caution you against doing that. You do get what you pay for, and an example that we've heard often is maybe we'll go to MSC because they have really low prices. Anyone who has worked with us as travel agents and has inquired about MSC knows that we no longer sell them because they've had a myriad of issues, failing their health inspections on ships, customer service problems, all kinds of stuff. So not to try to, this isn't to just bag on MSC, but just giving you the opinion that just because something is cheaper does not mean that it is better. Far from that, in fact, usually. So if cost is your ultimate objective, I get it. You have to look look at it through that lens, but if you're looking for a good opportunity, you're wanting to have fun, you want to make sure your money goes as far as it can, just keep that in mind. You do get what you pay for. All right, so let's get to those tips about how you can maybe try to save some money, not pay as much on all of these cruises that you're seeing. And the first tip is one that I have also covered in detail before, back in TA Talk number 7. That was titled The Biggest Mistake That People Are Making When Booking Their Cruise. And what that was is that they were waiting too long to do so. Let's take Royal Caribbean, for example. Again, if you book your Royal Caribbean cruise right now, which I'm recording this video at the end of April 2024, and you're booking a cruise for January of 2026, chances are and I have seen this over 8 years as a travel agent now, that over time, the price of that cruise will increase overall. Yes, they do yo-yo pricing or roller coaster pricing where it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down because they're trying to incite people to book. But over time, it might look like this, but it will kind of take that line going up. So you don't want to wait. You want to book as early as possible. And the other reason for that is that if you book and then the price of the cruise goes down, we can actually adjust your booking to that new lower price. So you don't have to worry about that. You can do that up until the final payment date. You're protected against a price drop. However, if you wait to book and the price of the cruise increases, nothing to be done about that. So you want to kind of try to jump in as early as you can. Again, I encourage you to go back and watch TA Talk number 7, where I went into that in more detail. Now, that is by far the biggest piece of advice I can give you, but what are some other things that you can do? Well, the first one I have in mind is, if you can, to try to travel when others don't. Now, this is not always a possibility, especially if you have kids. As you will find, the highest cruise prices tend to be when kids are out of school, and the lowest cruise prices tend to be when kids are in school, and specifically when they've just gone back to school. So a lot of parents are hesitant to take them out. And just to give you a more hard and fast example, before I started recording here, I actually went and looked at Icon of the Seas. You know, it's the hot new ticket, New York's hottest club, and our new favorite cruise ship from Royal Caribbean. And everyone wants to go on it, but it's very, very expensive. So I went on and I looked at every Icon of the Seas sailing for next year, 2025. And what I found is, per the usual, the cheapest sailings were kind of towards the end of January going into February. Because the beginning of January, you still have people on Christmas or New Year's break, winter break, things like that. So when you kind of get into later January going into February, most kids are back in school and most people are not able to travel at that time or unwilling to travel. So those were the lowest price cruises that I could find. Conversely, the highest price cruises were over Christmas / winter / New Year's break, the holiday break, the end of December over those holidays. That's always the most expensive time to cruise. A lot of people like to do that for gifts, and of course the kids are out of school. And aside from that, with the holidays, the most expensive month was July, from the end of June going into July and throughout July. Because again, some schools are still in session at the beginning of June. People have like extracurricular events and things like that, graduation ceremonies. So when you start to get to the end of June and you go into July, that is when you're going to see your highest cruise prices outside of those holiday sailings at the end of the year. And then it starts to tail off a bit into August. And then when you hit September, that's when it drops off a cliff again because kids are back in school. So if you can, if you have the means, you have the availability, try to travel at those times when most others can't. It will actually end up saving you a lot of money, and you'll have a more enjoyable cruise theoretically because less people will be on board. Things won't be as crowded. Yada, yada, yada. Now, my next tip is one that I don't think most people would think of. I know I wouldn't have thought of this. It's just something I've noticed being a travel agent, and that is to look for special itineraries or special periods of time when a cruise ship is in transition. And what I mean by that is if you, for example, let's say Oasis of the Seas is sailing out of Cape Liberty, New Jersey over the summer. So it's going to be there from May through October, and then over the winter months, it's going to sail from Galveston. Let's just say, that's not right, but let's just say. Well, in between those times that it's sailing from Cape Liberty and Galveston, it might have a few sailings from Fort Lauderdale. Those sailings tend to be pretty cheap because it's kind of an in-between season of going from this drive port to this drive port to now a more populous port, but it's not something that's offered all the time, so not as many people see it, I guess. I just happen to notice that those kind of one-off sailings or two-off sailings tend to be priced a bit lower, and you can actually get pretty good deals on those. Now, the itinerary could be anything. It's usually pretty random, but it can be a good opportunity for you to get some lower rates because not everyone is looking at those. Now, that doesn't always work. So when I say special itineraries, one thing that comes up to in my mind that's actually priced more, it's actually usually pretty expensive, is a Canada / New England sailing in the fall. You'll see a ship that is usually in Cape Liberty or Boston or something like that, Baltimore, and it's usually doing Bermuda sailings or even Caribbean, Bahama sailings, and then suddenly it'll offer something to Canada / New England for those fall foliage colors, Festapalooza things. Those are incredibly popular. So even though they're special, they're in high demand, and those tend to be higher priced. You want to find the things that typically just go to the Bahamas or the Caribbean on those in-betweens, and those will actually come in with lower rates. Now, this next tip is something that goes against our conventional wisdom or our conventional advice, I guess you could say, and that's to look for an older ship. This is specifically coming true with Royal Caribbean, and I don't mean necessarily an old ship. It doesn't have to be something that's really old. Those may not necessarily have the greatest of prices, but something that's kind of in the middle. So, as I mentioned earlier, Icon of the Seas, it's the hot thing, it's in demand, and it is by far the most expensive ship that Royal Caribbean currently has sailing, followed by Wonder of the Seas, which was the newest ship until Icon debuted, and you can bet when Star of the Seas debuts and Utopia of the Seas debuts, those are going to be more expensive as well. So those new ships are hot, they're in demand, people really want to go on them. So if you can actually find itineraries on ships that aren't quite as in demand, but still have some nice offerings, like the older Oasis class ships, Oasis of the Seas, Allure of the Seas, even Harmony, Symphony, not too bad. Or maybe the Quantum class ships, although those do tend to have kind of more specified itineraries. Even the Freedom class ships or Voyager class ships, especially ones that have been amplified, you can kind of get onto those, still have a really nice sailing experience, but not pay as much as those newer ships. Now keep in mind, we do think those newer ships are excellent. Like I said, Icon of the Seas is our new favorite ship by far. I think it's well worth the extra money. But if you can't swing it, if you're looking for something more reasonable, try to steer towards something like that. One of those ships or classes that I just mentioned where you're still going to get a really good offering, it's just not going to be priced as high. Now, my last tip is something that's going to apply directly to us, working with us as your travel agents, which, of course, if you didn't know, we are travel agents and our services are completely free. We never charge any fees or costs whatsoever, and you never pay a single cent more to book with us than you would direct on your own. So with that said, our prices are typically the exact same that you would get booking on your own because we are booking you direct with Royal Caribbean. We're going right into their system, or whatever cruise line it is. We're going right into their system and booking you there. So it's going to be at least the same price. Like I said, never ever more. But sometimes we do have group rates that are discounted from those standard prices that you can see on your own direct, and we can offer those to our clients, even if you're not a part of a group. That always confuses people because the name is group rates. What that means for us is that our company or our travel consortia has gone out and bought a block of rooms in advance at a discounted price, and we can now sell those to our clients. So you don't have to be part of a group, but we can just sell those to you. Now, those group rates are usually limited to rooms of 2 people only. So if you're a couple traveling together, a pair of friends, whatever it is, perfect. We can usually offer those to you if they're available for your sailing. But if you're a party of 4, a lot of people think, oh no, we can't do it. Sometimes splitting into 2 rooms of 2 group rates is better than cramming you all into 1 room of 4. So that's something that we can always look at. Another great thing with group rates is that they typically come with a refundable deposit as opposed to the non-refundable deposit that Royal Caribbean pricing tends to start at. It's like the default setting for that. So something else to keep in mind there. Now again, we don't have them on every sailing, on every cruise, and you do need to kind of book them out in advance because they will sell out. But if those specifications apply to you and your sailing party, it's definitely something that we could look at and see if we do have something that we could offer you. So we don't have a list. People are always asking, what sailings do you have group rates on? I don't know. We don't have an ongoing list. We have to literally go into the cruise that you're looking at and that you're interested in and then tell you if we have a group rate for it. But if we do, and it's something you can take advantage of, that is a tremendous way to save money. We have seen some huge savings, even over $1,000 more or less, I should say, than what you could get on your own, what Royal Caribbean's offering currently. Now, it's not always that much, but we have seen it. Now, something else to keep in mind, I did say group rates. If you have a group, which needs to be on Royal Caribbean, again, I'm going to go with them, at least 8 cabins booked at double occupancy. So 2 people per room, 16 people total over 8 cabins. You can create your own group if there's group inventory available, and you would be able to get those discounted rates for your group as well, plus some other amenities, and we can help set all of that up for you. So group rates, they can be great even if you don't have your own group. So there you go, friends. Those are some tips, some ideas that I have to try to help you save some money. Again, there's no magical catch-all. I can't just make everything happen and fix it for you. But if you follow those tips, you will tend to find that you will save some dollars as opposed to just going opposite of those tips. So with that said, it's time to conclude today's video with my favorite reoccurring segment, Spider-Man Potato Head, swinging in with this week's question. You know what? I'm going to do 2 questions this week because it's been a while, so Why not? All right, let's start with question number 1. This is how long it's been. What will be the first thing you'll do or go once you're on board Icon? Yeah, we went on Icon quite a bit ago. Sorry, kind of behind on the TA talk here. So maybe I'll do another question as well. Icon was amazing. I don't know what the first thing we did. The first thing we did was we went in the Royal Promenade and admired the Pearl because it was like, whoa. We took some pictures and videos of that, talked to some people we knew, and then went on our merry way. It was from Matthew Ramella9893 on YouTube, so thank you. Harriet Walker on YouTube says, "Hey Matt, I've watched you guys do the Ben and Jerry room, try to book that room, and the person at Royal did not understand or know what room I was talking about specifically. Do you have to ask to get the Ben and Jerry room?" So the thing with that is that it was kind of a unwritten thing. Like, it definitely was a thing. We have a video on it on our channel, a tour of it. On the Freedom class ships, if you had the promenade view room right behind Ben and Jerry's, they had those big cows out there, so they decorated the room in cows. They gave you free Ben and Jerry's ice cream. You got to go in the suite lounge, all that stuff. And it wasn't something that was overly advertised, so I'm not surprised that the representative didn't know about it. Unfortunately, the sad news is those no longer exist. The partnership with Ben and Jerry's and Royal Caribbean has ended. They are not, Ben and Jerry's is not available on Royal Caribbean ships anymore, and the cow suites are gone. They're just standard promenade view rooms now. So RIP and RIP to our friends Jen and Barry. So they do live on in our memories and in our merchandise. All right, one more quick one here. This is from Kendra F Creates on YouTube. Question: if you were to start your travel agency over again, what would you do differently? Or another way to phrase this question would be, what would you do differently as a travel franchise? That's a fantastic question, and it's one of those things, like, initially I'm kind of like, I wouldn't do anything differently because I'm very happy with where we're at now, but it did take a long time to get there. And if I may plug another TA Talk video, the very first one I ever did, TA Talk number 1, I think it was titled Our Rocky Road to Success, and it was true. It took us years and years and years working multiple jobs, working all the time to try to get this thing off the ground and running. I think if we were to redo it, knowing what we know now, I think what we would probably do is just focus on YouTube right from the beginning and don't even bother with anything else. And I don't know that that would apply to everyone. I think that just applied to us specifically. YouTube is our bread and butter. It's the only advertising we do now. But when we first started out, we did try some other conventional methods, and they did not work for us. So, and also advertising locally. We live in a very rural area with low disposable income, so we were not able to generate sales here. So we wouldn't even bother with that now. We would just go with the global approach on YouTube and social media. But great question. All right, friends, I know it has been quite some time since we were sitting here in the spot having a chat with each other, but we are back, and I am so grateful and thankful, as always, for you joining me here on another TA Talk. And once again, I'll remind you that we are travel agents. Like I said, it's completely free to you. You won't pay any more. You might be able to pay less. So feel free to reach out via that travel agent information in the description of this and every video on our channel. We would love to help get you booked on your cruise or your all-inclusive resort stay with sandals and beaches. We also do that too. And if you've recently booked your cruise or your all-inclusive stay with sandals and beaches and you're not paid in full, you may be able to transfer it to us. That's also free of charge, and then we'll be able to assist you the rest of the way. So please feel free to reach out again via that travel agent information. It's in the description of this video. With that said, we are signing off for today. I will see you next time for the next TA Talk. But until then, happy travels! I gotta go earn some more bells, pay off these loans. Tom Nook's killing me!